Hello, hello. Can you hear us?
Hey everyone. I think we are ready to kick off. Just let us know if you can hear us.
I think it can be some delay, but let's wait.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
Please.
Michael.
Please don't forget to leave thumbs up if you can hear us well. We did really our best.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for joining. Welcome to the second Watermill release party, which becomes a tradition now. So we have some news about Watermill to share and some exciting news about our training later. Yeah, let's see the agenda for today. Yeah, so we'll start with a short summary what we were up to this year, because if you follow our blog, you might have noticed that it was quite quiet. There was no new blog posts for a while.
Spoiler alert, we weren't on vacation.
Yeah, we didn't have much rest, that's for sure. Then we'll go over the new Watermill features, which we described briefly in a blog post, but we will go more deep into the details now. We have more time here. And then we will share the Go event driven news, share a bit about what's next this year and next year. And then we have a Q&A session. I guess you can just drop your questions anytime on the chat and we'll try to...
Oh, sure, let me try.
Yeah, if you have any questions, just leave them in the chat. I guess we will come back to them at the end or in the middle of the session, if it makes sense. And at the end, we have a chance for you to win the unique Gopher crotchet mascot that you can see next to the mic.
Is it louder now? Please let us know. And yeah, this really unique Gopher, because we were giving some already. They were this size, but this one, this is Uber Gopher.
Bigger is obviously better.
It's as big as our big microphone.
So this crochet pattern is quite unique. You won't find it anywhere else. It's the only chance to get one. So yeah, glad that you joined us.
And on previous live, I remember that some people were asking about this ticker notes on the laptop. So sometimes there are some special occasions when we are giving them, but stay tuned. So if you'll be lucky enough, you can get them. But it's like, it's not that simple. But not this time, but maybe at some live later.
Okay, let's go next then. So let's go briefly over this year. So as you may know, we started the year in March with a pre-sale of Go Event Driven, which didn't exist at that time. We just wanted to see if there's enough interest, and actually over 300 people decided to buy it, which allowed us to just focus on building the training over the next 6 months or so. So that's the reason we didn't do much else on the blog and in our other open source projects. But the nice thing about it is it created kind of synergy between Watermill, because the training is based on the Watermill. And while building the training, we also came up with a few updates to Watermill, so it it all plays well together. Yeah, so basically the training is the big reason we didn't post anything new for a while. Yeah, let's jump into the details then.
Okay, so what we have the first on the list. So the first on the list is the update of CQRS component API. So if you were using the CQRS component earlier, you probably noticed that to use that you needed to use something with the name CQRS facade. That idea was nice, to have some facade and to tackle complexity in some nice track that will have all configurations. But you know how it's going sometimes with some good ideas that in practice they are not looking that nice. And after using it for, I think, 3 years probably, we found out that, okay, it's a bit hard to configure, it's a bit hard to use, and we decided to find some new way of how you can interact with CQRS component. So the first approach for that was the, I think, message bus component that Miłosz was working for some time. And the initial idea was to develop a different component that will do pretty the same. But at the end, we decided that it would be nice to actually try to update CQRS component in a backward compatible way. So you will be able to do switch in more easy way, and you actually don't need to actually switch from the previous API if you don't need. So we only deprecated the CQRS facade, so the old way of configuration, but will not remove that for as long as we'll not release Watermill v2. That we don't done yet because we don't have. We have ideas how we can extend the functionalities without breaking the previous things. And now, instead of using CQRS facade, you have multiple smaller components that you can use. So you can have separate event and command bus and event and command processor constructors. And they are separate and they are much smaller. They have much smaller configuration, and they have also some new configuration options there. So yeah, this is how the CQRS facade example of the CQRS facade config looked like. It wasn't super nice, and it wasn't also super extensible because of how big it was. And also not all the options were always fitting. So for example, you needed to configure, so in theory you had some configuration for command bus, even if you were just using commands, etc., etc. So long story short, it wasn't a good idea, but well, it happened for everybody. And now you can use, and yeah, earlier the heart of CQRS component was two types of handlers. So it was command and event handler. So when you're using a CQRS component, you've seen that you needed to implement the command or event handler interface, and it requires handler name, new command, and handle. And this is also the thing that we wanted to simplify with this new release, because it also worked kind of nicely, but it required a lot of boilerplate because you needed to define the interface for each handler, you needed to provide the type there, and you needed, what's probably worst here, you needed to cast the command or event to the type that, okay, it was guaranteed to be this type, but it was not very nice. And for bigger projects, it wasn't working the best. So what we did instead, we created the new event handler constructor. And now when you're implementing your event handler, you just need to call this constructor and it will create a handler. And it's equal with the previous implementation. So again, it's backward compatible. So if you are already using CQRS components, so everything stays as is, this is basically returning the previous interface of event handler. And how it works? You can guess. It's generic based. You can see the implementation here. So this is implementing the event handler interface that is on the right. Sorry, it's a bit small, but I hope that it's big enough. And this is the implementation of new event handler. So you can see that you're passing the T, which is the, I think, event type here. And automatically it's generating the implementation of the interface. And it has one nice advantage compared to returning generic function, is that you can have slice of event handlers. Because if event handler would be just a function, not interface like in this case, it wouldn't be possible. I mean, it's not possible to have slice of different generic types because, I mean, you can have slice of any's, but it's not the point. And this is actually a pretty nice pattern that you can use with generics to kind of hide under the hood that, okay, something is generic, provides nice interface, but from other side to also not suffer from the generic limitations. Because if you work with generic a bit, you can see that it's not silver bullet, and it sometimes requires some tricks to use it in some context. And in this case, one advantage is that we also kept the backward compatibility. So you can still use old way of creating handlers, and this one is not deprecated. So you can still implement the interface, and this is totally fine. Plus, we also added one. During removing the CQRS facade, we also redone a bit the configuration that were used there. So as I shown in the previous slide, so the previous configuration was pretty complex, and it was hard to understand by people. And after we split that configuration to smaller ones, so separate for buses, separate for events and commands, now it can contain a bit more of the configuration there. So you can see, for example, here that for event bus we added onPublish function. So it allows you to hook into the publishing of command. So for example, if you need to add something special to your command, for example, I don't know.
Maybe you could share how it's different than the middlewares on the router.
Yeah, it's actually a good question. So because actually it's pretty similar idea. So for actually not for publish bus, but for processor. But for processor you have also the onHandle function. And with this onHandle, you can intercept into handling your events or commands. And it's different from, so it's kind of similar to middleware in high-level idea, but with the difference that it's command or event aware. So in other words, you have the command or event type there, and you can do some things on that. So it's pretty useful for logging, and for example, logging. I think that this is pretty good example, because when you're doing it with middleware, you need to extract command name from metadata. You can do that, but it's not super practical. So that's why we added a bit more options there. The other improvement that we also did is adding a bit more of context to some functions. So one function is, for example, subscribe constructor, where you have a bit more context than just topic name. I think earlier we had just topic name, and now when you are creating subscriber, you know the handler, you know the topic name, of course, and you have much more complex. So it's adding a lot of new opportunities, I would say, for configuration.
So it makes it easier to create consumer groups, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a question if the event-driven course is updated with the changes. So it is updated with this change. This is what we mentioned before. This is like a synergy where we used what we wanted to write about in the training and updated Watermill with the changes.
Mm-hmm.
So this part is included.
Yes, but also to make it super clear, so the training is not about Watermill. So Watermill is a tool, but you can, in theory, you are not forced actually to use Watermill. And spoiler alert, it's for future it may be not only Go actually. So that's why we wanted to create it Watermill agnostic. And I think we also believe that it makes sense. I mean, I know that there are some libraries that are trying to keep people for all means with them forever and couple them, but we are not like that. I mean, we built Watermill in a way that you can migrate to Watermill easily, but it also works the opposite way. I mean, if you say that you don't like Watermill, you can always migrate to something else. But we believe that you will not, because Watermill is the best.
Yeah, why would you?
Exactly. So,
but if you decide to use another PubSub that's not supported and don't want to write an integration, I guess that's one use case. Mm-hmm. And that should be quite straightforward. As long as you keep Watermill out of your, logic, your application code. Hopefully you do.
But it's kind of hard to couple that. I mean, I think it's pretty opposite to normal frameworks, because normal frameworks are trying to couple your code as much as you can to those logic that it had advantages because, okay, making something fast is maybe good, but it has trade-offs because later it's a bit harder to do some custom things and I love that. By the way, I was writing about that in one article 1 year ago, so about frameworks in Go. So if you didn't read that, so you can check out after the live my blog post on the blog. But let's go back to Watermill now.
So just one more thought. Like this is the initial idea was to create Watermill as something like HTTP library, but for events. So I think this is still the case. And of course, there are different HTTP libraries. There are some that are more like frameworks where they do everything for you, but there are some like Chi or Echo where you just have the router and that's it. So Watermill is like this kind of library.
Yeah, so I think that probably you can compare it easily to Java, for example. So sometimes you can hear that somebody is Spring developer, and I think it's showing nicely the part of the problem that you are not Java developer or some backend engineer or Spring developer. So it's not the case. I think I hope that never ever somebody will have title Watermill developer. It would be our failure. All right, so let's go back to Watermill. So yeah, those are the new options that we introduced. And yeah, the last thing that is also nice change and addition to CQRS component is handler groups. So this is also something that we actually found out during the creation of training, that it's something useful. So how handler groups works? So previously, Watermill CQRS component was creating subscription per each handler, and it's working nicely in most cases, but it's not working nicely when you would like to have one subscription for multiple handlers. So for example, you have one topic in which you have different kind of events, and you would like to still keep the ordering of them. So in this case, you would like to have only one subscription for all of them, and actually you need to do that because in other case you lose the ordering. Earlier you could theoretically hack that and inject some different the same subscriber in the constructor, but it was super ugly. So now it's much easier and it's supported out of the box. So yeah, if you have some ordering problems and because of that, we solved that. So it's worth checking it. Right, so now it's time for SQL v2.
Right, so Watermill SQL, in case you don't use it, is a PubSub based on MySQL or Postgres, where you can use like an SQL database as a PubSub, and it works pretty well actually most of the time.
And pretty fast.
Yeah, we use it mostly as the outbox pattern. If you don't know about the outbox pattern, wait until we share the news about the training.
And I think we had actually one case when we used that as a PubSub, real PubSub, because I mean sometimes there are some infrastructure problems, let's say, and you cannot, for example, for some reason you cannot have real PubSub. And actually, in this case, SQL PubSub is pretty nice because it's highly you probably have Postgres or MySQL, and in this case, you can have event-driven application at pretty high scale still, based on our benchmarks and practice actually because we use that, and you don't need to have real, I would say, PubSub infrastructure. So this is also a nice fallback in this situation because you can start with SQL1. And you can show that, okay, it's actually working, it has nice benefits. And in this case, you have some good arguments to invest in real PubSub infrastructure.
Yeah, and you can also implement exactly once the URI if you want. Yeah, but the thing is we've been using it and it's great. But there was a rare kind of race condition where you could lose some messages while subscribing to them. And like I won't go into details there. On the release blog post, there is like a link to a blog post from Oskar Dudic where he explains how it works in details. So if you're interested, you can take a look there. The short story is to fix this we had to redesign PubDig API and the default schema it uses for both MySQL and Postgres. So sadly, this is a major version bump. So now we recommend using Watermill SQL v2 from now on. And if you don't use it yet, it's actually straightforward. You just make sure you include the correct version in the Go mode file. But if you already use it, we recommend upgrading, which can be a bit complex. So you could, in theory, migrate to tables yourself, but it will be quite difficult. So we recommend just renaming the topics, and there are two ways you can do it. Like if you use it as an outbox just for forwarding events, you could just change the name of the topic used for forwarding as you update the library to v2 in the same commit release, and then Watermill will just create the new tables for you, and the old ones will be not used anymore, which usually is not an issue unless you rely on them for something. So maybe then you can somehow backfill them, but I think most of the cases you will be fine just using another topic. So this is the easy case. If you use it as a regular PubSub, you could change there's a configuration option for the schema adapters where you can supply a function that generates a topic name, and by default it is the topic name prefixed with Watermill _. So an easy way forward would be to just change this to be something like Watermill v2 _ or whatever you want. Can be anything, just something different than the current name. And then again, as you update the library, it will create new tables for you, and all the new messages will go through those new tables, which is quite straightforward way to do it. Unless you need this full event history for something, then you need to consider this. And also, once you do it, you need to make sure all messages from the old tables has been processed. So if you have high volume of messages, you might need to run both versions in parallel or something like that, just to make sure you don't lose any messages. And it should be easy to check because there's the last process offset is recorded in one of the tables, so you can just check if it is the max offset from the messages table, and if so, yeah, you're good to go. And as a nice addition to this, we also implemented batch querying, because so far there was only one message process at a time from the PubSub, which made the PubSub quite slow. Still fast enough for most use cases, but it was slower. So right now you can supply how many messages you want to consume at a time, and you can speed this up this way.
Yeah, so I think that it may be good opportunity to actually do the update, because it's much faster, because you can imagine that subscribing message by message, it wasn't super fast, but it wasn't super slow, because I think at the end it was probably around 400 messages per second. But it's not that small, but still in some cases it may be not enough. Yeah. Definitely worth checking.
Yeah, so we recommend upgrading because missing events is not something you want to have, even though if the chance is really low, but we've seen this happen in production actually. Just consider how the migration will work, because all migrations are complex, and this one requires, for example, the Postgres 13 at minimum, so you might need to upgrade your database version, which I had to do a few weeks ago. So it all makes it a bit more complex. So just keep this in mind.
Right. So the next thing that we have on our list is the request reply support. So this is something that it's maybe not needed really often because this is really specific pattern. Because usually when you are building any message or even on command-based application, you'd like to achieve decoupling. And when you would like to achieve decoupling, you should not really care about response immediately. But of course, there are some cases when you may want to know about some command response and know that, okay, if you was not able to process the command immediately, it should be processed anyway. Because usually when you are doing some operations and you need to have response immediately after that, you should probably use RPC, HTTP, or some synchronous protocol. So this is, very specific pattern that you should not use by default. But yeah, we're glad that we added that, because for those specific cases when something should be anyway processed asynchronously, it's actually a pretty good pattern. And I think we also did pretty good job with creating a new nice interface for request reply support. So it's already taking into account generics and using Duct to provide you strictly typed commands and results. So yeah, we can probably say that sponsor of this release are generics in big part, because in a lot of changes, generics actually helped us a lot to make some interfaces nicer. So yeah, this is the request reply handler constructor. So the idea is that request reply is compatible with command processor and command bus from CQRS component, but it's a separate component. So initially we tried to put it as part of CQRS component, but it wasn't super nice and it was pretty coupled. So we find a way how actually put it to the different component and keep it decoupled. So we will not make CQRS component more complex, and we can also extend them in the future. So the idea is that the request reply component is returning the CQRS command handler, and under the hood it's doing the magic that is needed for sending you the response. So this is the high-level diagram how it works. So yeah, because I didn't mention that this request reply implementation is based on PubSub. So the replies from the handlers are sent through PubSub as well. So commands are sent through PubSub to some subscriber, and replies are also sent over PubSub. So this is pretty good because you don't need to have any special infrastructure for that, and you don't need to have PubSub that supports request reply natively, because some of them support that, but we wanted to create some implementation that is generic. And how it works in practice. So you can send commands and wait for reply. So for example, I will show some examples actually later. It's compatible with sending multiple replies. So in some cases you may return not only one reply but multiple replies. So for example, you may fan out your commands and process them multiple times, or they may be replied, or you can have only one reply. So we have interfaces for these two situations. You can return error and result from the handler if you would like. So in the normal CQRS command handler, you can only return error from that, but in this case we extended the interface in a pretty smart way. So you can return not only error but also response, and this is also sent to the place from where you emitted the command. And as I said, so it works over PubSub, over any PubSub, so it's compatible with any PubSub that we support in Watermill. And actually you can use different PubSub for notifications and for sending commands. I don't see use case for that, but it will be funny. Please try that and say us if it worked. And yeah, it's compatible with CQRS interfaces. So everything what you have already in CQRS, you can put request reply on top of that and it will work. What's pretty nice. So the first building block to use request reply is constructor of command handler. So as I said earlier, so this is returning the CQRS command processor compatible handler, and under the hood it's what it's doing. So it's handling the handler function, and after it's handled, it's sending the notification through backend. So backend here is the implementation of request reply. So the default backend that we are supporting now is PubSub1, but in theory you can also support different backends than PubSub. But this is something that we added support from the beginning. And the second part is send with replies. So this is something like command bus, I would say, but with one small difference that this is function. So I mentioned earlier that generics have its complexities, let's say. And one of the complexities is there that you cannot have method with generic type. So for example, we cannot create command bus with a method send with replies and with generic result type because it's just not possible by design. So you need to create a function. And in this function, we're passing reference to command bus. So this command bus is used to send commands. We're passing reference to backend. So backend is this part that pops up in our case, which is so this is some abstraction on top of PubSub that is able to send notifications. I will show the interface a bit later, and you are sending the command here. And as a result, you are returning reply with result type and cancel function, so this is the version of request reply when you can have multiple replies, but there is a function that is waiting just for one reply. But in this case, you can have multiple ones. And here you can see that we are calling backend to listen for notifications. And it's pretty important that we're listening for notifications before we are sending the command, because if you send the command and start to listen on notifications after we send the command, we don't know if we would have race condition and if notification will arrive faster than we would start to listen for notifications. So this is actually a pretty important one. And yeah, that's actually what we are doing here from high level. So we're listening for notifications. Later we are listening and we're correlating it by operation ID. So operation ID is the thing that we are using for correlation. We need to know for which replies of command we need to wait. So that's why we are putting into metadata of command information about operation ID. And later, based on that, we are matching the replies. And this is the interface of backend. So you can see that it has only two methods. So listen for notifications. So you've seen that in this listen for send and listen for notifications. And on command processed. So this on command processed, so this is called after command handler is executed, and it has context about the execution. So if the execution succeeded and about the result. And you can see that there is a ton of generics here. And thanks to that, we can provide you strongly typed responses. Yeah, actually, as you can see, you can have generic interfaces, but it have one downside, that you cannot do normal dependency injection with that, because you need to create new instance of backend per each send with replies, and also for each event handler. This is not a problem because it has zero side effects, so it's not doing any I/O or whatever, so it's super fast. But you need to keep it in mind that you need to always put backend that is compatible with the result that you have here. And yeah, well, when you are not putting result, you can use the magic type that is named no result. And this is actually the first time in my life when I used the alias type in Go, because in this, thanks to that, struct is equal to no result. So you can have, so it doesn't matter if you have backend with empty struct result or you have with struct with no result. So you can mix that. It's a detail, but it actually created a really nice interface that you cannot see here, but this is example usage of that. So you can see that you are adding handler to command processor, and you are using request reply package, and you can return errors from this handler. And after that, you are calling send with reply with no result, because in this handler you have no result to send. And in reply, you will return the error that was returned from the scanner. So you can see here that, sorry for switching that fast, but you can see here that we returned error here, and this error is available here automatically. And as I said, so this is the simpler version when you have when you are only returning error, but you can also return response. So for example, here we have a handler that is paying for room operation, where we are passing some request backend, and we are returning pay room result with some data and without error. And this is automatically handled here. So we are calling send with reply with, sorry, it's a typo here. It should be it shouldn't be request reply no result. It should be the payment response type something. And it's just sent here, and it's all strictly typed. So I think it's pretty good. I think that's all about request reply, and it's another topic that I have almost always problem to pronounce. I hope that Miłosz will teach me how to do that.
Yeah, so there's the circuit breaker middleware, which is a kind of small addition, but maybe helpful. So yeah, circuit breaker is a pattern used for helping you not overload an external resource. In short, I will show you how it works in a moment. But as you can see, the config is quite minimal, but it is based on the GoBreaker library from Sony, which has its own config, and we decided to just use the settings from the library. So this middleware is coupled to this library, but since it is high quality, we decided to do this.
It's a good coupling. I mean, yeah. It's also practical because if the library will add some new parameters, it will just work out of the box. So.
Yeah, and if it is deprecated, we will just create a new middleware then. So what's the point of it? So let's say you have, I guess, quite standard scenarios. There's an event handler that consumes some messages from your pub sub, and in reaction to the events, you do some stuff, but also call an external API. Could be, something outside of your company, let's say, like some external provider, and then something breaks with it. Like you just can't reach it. So in the default setup, you would just return an error from the handler, which makes the message, spin, will be requeued with some delay or not, depends on your setup. But the point is, the messages will accumulate on the queue, and of course, this is something you want because you want to process them at some point once the API is back. And by the way, this could also be not API, but could be like your database, or I don't know, whatever resource you use, like a Redis or something. And yeah, so there's this issue that, if you keep queuing the failing message, your service will keep calling the API, which can actually make it worse because it is down, and let's say it wants to come up, tries to, but then it receives so many requests at once, then that it goes out of memory or whatever. This CPU bound. So what secret what circuit breaker does is it fails early, and when it does it depends on the config. So for example, you can say something like, if processing of messages fails for like more than 10 times within 5 seconds or whatever, the circuit breaker opens and it returns an error immediately to the pub sub. So the effect is kind of the same, but there is no impact on the API. And then the circuit breaker, after a time you configure, will try to send a few or one message. I mean, process it. And depending on if they are successful or not, it may remain open or close, which will allow all the messages to be processed.
In some way, we can say that it's kind of smart rate limiter, kind of error-aware smart rate limiter.
Yeah, there's also the throttle middleware, which was in Watermill previously. So you can use it. You can use both actually. So when the circuit breaker closes and allows messages to pass, you can have the throttle middleware that, for example, don't allow more than 100 of messages per minute. It's also quite useful for limiting messages in general. If you have some external APIs with rate limits, it is an easy way to do it on the message handler level. Yeah, so it is quite easy to use like all Watermill middlewares, and you can configure it according to the Go breaker settings. That's pretty much it. There's more to the logic of the algorithm of circuit breaker, but I guess you can read more if you want. Okay, and the last small addition is the S-Log logger, which is very fresh. So thank you to Dimitri for contributing this. As you know, there's this structured logger included in the standard library of Go now, and you can use it together with Watermill now. So you don't have to use this the default Watermill logger. You can use logger with fields.
So we can say that we have really cutting-edge technologies, multiple ones in Watermill and generics, S-Log.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Golang team. So again, big thanks to Watermill contributors. I won't pronounce your names because probably will mispronounce them, but thank you very much for contributing. I think there's over 50 contributors total now.
Yeah, it's
great.
It's actually pretty hard to count because we have multiple repositories for each PubSub. So yeah, it's easily more than 50 because we have almost 50 in the main repository. So yeah, no 100 yet, but we are getting there.
Yeah. So if you're looking for something to some project to contribute to, we have some issues labeled as good first issue. You can look into that, or you could try implementing your own PubSub, which is quite fun and not that hard actually. It's just two interfaces into methods in theory.
And you know what's the best? You don't need to implement a single test because Watermill have a universal test suite. So actually, and it's actually pretty solid because we already implemented a couple of PubSubs without using it on the production, just based on tests. And actually later when we had chance to use them in the production, it was just working. So I think that this test suite is really nice. And I also don't remember that we didn't break anything yet. So I think we did a good job with tests. So tests are important.
We should do like a challenge for the weirdest PubSub implementation. I think our top ones are now the HTTP and
IO.
file-based,
So, fun fact, we have the PubSub implementation that is based on IO reader. And it's actually pretty interesting because we have the CLI tool that is based on that. So you are piping the std in as a publisher, I think. And it can republish that to any PubSub.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually pretty interesting.
Or you could use files as a PubSub. So we
don't recommend.
You don't need any infrastructure.
As long as you are not totally crazy. Okay, we recommend. Please let us know later how it worked.
Yeah, but this is funny how you can just make anything a PubSub, basically, if you can implement the two methods.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think we're closing the Watermill topic for now.
Yep. So let's talk about our plans for the rest of the year and a bit more. So as we mentioned earlier, so we were a bit busy with our Go event-driven training. So it occupied a bit of our weekends and well, our day is also 24 hours, so well, this is what it is. But we already have some plans what we would like to improve after that. So recently it was pretty quiet on the blog, but in the meantime we gathered some nice ideas for the articles. We're not saying which one we will release yet because we need to gather some more ideas and write them. That it's also pretty time consuming, so stay tuned, but we are not putting any date yet, but we're sure that we'll release some of them. What's connected to that? So we would like to update the Go with the domain ebook with some new articles, but we also was thinking about some bigger update of the content that we have there to update it a bit. So it's not super out of date, but there are some small updates that we would like to put there and to make it nicer. So that's also on our bucket list. And as part of that, probably we'll also update the White Workouts DDD example project. So we have also some new ideas how we can improve that project. This project is also not really finished, so we need to also put some things there to make it finished. And yeah, it all depends how much time we will have, but yeah, what we'll also plan to do is rest a bit because creating the Go event-driven training was pretty time consuming and Baldur's Gate, for example, I need to really finish that. I'm not sure what's your plans, Miłosz. Maybe you're going to Hawaii, but
yeah, I don't know yet. But I probably need to finish the second Legend of Zelda. So there's that.
That also sounds like a plan. So yeah, that's our plan. But before that, we have also one more thing, and yeah, it's Go event driven. So as we promised. So after we did the pre-sale, we are start opening the short sale of the training, and this is the last one this year actually. So Miłosz, maybe you would like to do some small recap how it went with the pre-sale.
So as you mentioned at the start, today we started the pre-sale in March, and we aimed at 50 copies sold just to know that it makes sense to continue. And we sold over 300, which was great. We're super grateful to everyone who bought it when there was nothing to show for it, just an agenda really. So it's great that so many people trusted us. So based on this, we decided to go all into the training, and we spent the next pretty much half a year implementing the training, and a few weeks ago we released the last bits of the content. So it is already, and yeah, we are ready for the next sale now, and yeah, we have a video to show you how it works.
So be prepared. We'll show now the video. Oh, it doesn't work yet. 1 second, I need to upload it again. As usually, when you are doing something on air, this is the proof that it wasn't pre-recorded.
And welcome on board. We are happy you joined us for the Go event-driven training. This training is different than most online courses. It is completely hands-on and with just the amount of theory needed.
In fact, this is the only video that you will see on this website. Instead of watching boring videos, you'll learn by writing code.
Here's how it works. You read the theory on our website. In your local environment, you will find the exercise files you're going to change. They will be sorted across directories with the module number and name. It's the same structure as in the sidebar on the website.
There are 2 kinds of exercises. First, we have simpler code snippets where you learn how to do one specific thing. The other kind of exercise is a long-running project where you build a real-life event-driven application. You will work on this project over entire training. It will show you how to apply event-driven patterns in real life. Each exercise uses a set of tests to check if your solution is correct.
To progress, you use our custom CLI tool. Running it verifies your solution and lets you move to the next exercise.
If you get stuck, you can always see the solution. But don't give up too early. You will learn the most if you solve the exercise yourself. Once you do it, the solution will appear on the website, so you can always compare it with your code. There is a Discord community for everyone who joined the training. You can ask questions there and get help from us and other members. Click the button with the Discord logo at the top of the page to join the server. With all this, we wanted to capture the best way of learning we know.
Now you are ready to jump in. Enjoy the training.
Have fun.
Right, so probably will not get Oscar for that, but we did our best. Fun fact, I think, it took us a while, but probably a big part of time was due to all 5 cats that Miłosz have, and you can imagine that any cat passing somewhere or making some noise forced us to record stuff again.
You should have prepared some behind the scenes.
Next time, if we'll record something like that next time. Yeah, so this is how the training looks inside. And as we said multiple times, so the training is all about building scalable and decoupled service, really decoupled. And the idea is to do it in a really practical way. So it's not like just really abstract examples that you will not apply in real life. So we prepared some super practical examples from our life that we known earlier, and they should be pretty useful for you that you'll be able to use that patterns in real life. And what was also pretty important for us, so to all the patterns that we're showing there, to also give you the context when to use them and show you when they are not working. So as for example we said about request reply. So this is really nice pattern, but you shouldn't use it very often because it works for really specific cases. Now another scenario is for example Saga. There are sagas and process managers, because again this is really nice pattern, but it's really easy to hurt yourself with this pattern if you will not use it in the good way. So for example in the training we're showing the bad use cases of these patterns and how to not use them actually then. So I think that this is probably the only training when you are also learning how to not use some patterns. So this is all there. And yeah, I think that we did a couple things that makes this training totally unique. So you cannot find such kind of training anywhere else. So the first thing, it's not a course, because it's not, I think it's not saying nicely how it works under the hood. We more see this like a training, because so you can probably compare it to training on the gym. So you cannot, get strong from just reading books and watching videos. You need to go to gym and do hard exercises, and you make the effect. It's hard. Okay, reading books and watching videos, of course, it's much easier because it doesn't require any effort, but it have really small results. So that's why we are naming it training, because as hard of that, you need to do some exercises, and you cannot really progress when you are not doing that. What's also pretty good is that you have also one place with consistent way of giving you information about some techniques. And when you are looking for some techniques in the internet, usually they are not consistent, and each sources are saying something different about that, and it's pretty hard to understand how to apply it properly. And in this case, everything is there on the platform, and you can just, after learning that, you really know how to use that because you needed to use it in practice. And what's also pretty unique compared to all other platforms is that you're working with your own environment. So you don't need to program anything in your browser or whatever, because we believe that it's hard from the real case. I mean, when you're working, you're not working in a browser usually, and you're usually using your IDE or editor, and you are doing something locally. And I think that this is pretty important, because it works much better for more complex projects. And as part of this training, you are building pretty complex project actually, and doing it within the browser, it will be just hard. So it's good to have some, environment that you feel comfortable in. And what's inside of this training? So compared to pre-sale, so when people just needed to trust us that, okay, we'll actually do that and not go to Hawaii and, run away with the money. Now it's all there in the platform. So after buying, you can just access that and you can already finish the entire training. It's over 20 hours of coding. It's of course hard to say how much hours exactly it will take you to finish that, but it's based on the metrics that we're gathering on how much it takes on average people to finish that. It can be more, it shouldn't be less, because again, it's pretty a lot of coding there. So it's something around of that. And there are 21 modules there and 94 exercises. As part of that, you have also access to our private Discord community when you can discuss the exercises, modules, and also ask about some event-driven stuff. We are also trying to respond there on this channel as soon as we can. So I think that this is pretty useful. And the last but not least is that when you're buying the training now, you'll have access to all the future updates. So it's both content updates, but there is a small chance that in future we may add support to different programming languages than Go, and you will also receive this update. So, but it will be probably much more expensive when we'll add more languages. So it's probably good deal for the future. Right, and if we'll go into the details. So as always, our pricing policy is that we're not offering any Black Friday, Christmas discount or whatever. The idea that is earlier you are buying, the better price you have. So you would not have already the price that we're offering during the pre-sale, because this was the time when it was just paying us based on promise. And we already promised on the pre-sale that, okay, you are buying now, you are buying at the best price, and we're keeping this promise. And this promise also works now. So now we are selling the training for $300, and the price will go higher in next year. Inflation and all this stuff also works. And we also would like to be fair for people that are buying it earlier. We also support purchase parity power. So if you are living in the low-income country, so during checkout you will see information that you can buy training at a lower price, but it will have region lock-in, so it will work only in one country. So you should decide if you would like to have region lock-in or it should work globally. And what's really important, because we know that, okay, probably none of you, I'm sure that none of you had a chance to work on make training on such platform, and you may not know yet if this format will work for you. So that's because of that we are offering really flexible refund policy. So you have 30 days to return to get a refund for the training. No question is asked, and you can just say, okay, I didn't like the training, please give me money back. No offense. And you can even finish the training and say, it was boring, sorry, and we'll return money. It's not a problem. So far during pre-sale we have probably 4 refunds or something like that. So we are not afraid that we'll have a lot of refunds, because we see that people like that. But again, if you feel that, okay, this training doesn't work for you, you can just get the refund within 30 days after buying that, and you risk actually nothing, because you can check, you don't like that, okay, that's totally fine. So yeah, you can buy the training at 3.tech/event-driven/, and yeah, I think that's it. If you have any questions about Go Event Driven, so Q&A is pretty good time for that. There's also plenty of more details about the agenda on the landing page there. But yeah, I think that's it about Go Event Driven. So I think that it's time for the Q&A. All right, so let's go from the top. So if you have any questions, please leave them on the chat and I will put them on the screen. Let me just do arrangement. Hello. Okay, so the first question was, can we turn volume up, please? We did that. I just needed to check if this functionality works. Yes, I think that Miłosz already answered to that. So is the Go event course updated with Watermill changes? Yes, that's correct. It's up to date with Watermill changes. Some of them, as we mentioned, so they were developed during the development of the training, and yeah, thanks to training, actually, we have these changes there.
I guess except the request reply.
Yeah,
But this might be something we will add in the future. Sounds like a good idea for a future module. So request reply is very fresh. Not in the training yet, but it might be there at some point.
all right. So does Watermill support that letter Q and how? So I think that Miłosz is probably the best person to answer that, because I think he was implementing that. So
Yeah, there is a full chapter on this in the training as well, on poison queues or the letter queues. The short version is it does, but depends on what you need. So the easiest way is the middleware, poison queue middleware, where you can republish the message to another topic in case it fails for some reason.
and this topic, another topic doesn't need to be actually on the same PubSub. I think some time ago we had idea that you can actually republish, for example, poisoned message from Kafka to MySQL, for example, with using MySQL PubSub. Thanks to that, you can have easier access to the messages.
So to give you more insight, we are not a big fans of the letter queues because publishing messages there, moving messages there is easy, but then you have to do something with them. And this is the hard part because you have to manage somehow this topic. So one idea is to use an SQL PubSub for this, for example, because like building some tooling on top of it is much easier than on other PubSubs. And in the training, we show how to build a CLI tool for managing poison queues. And to make it more interesting, it is not based on SQL, it's based on Kafka. So you can learn how to do it using Kafka, which is quite interesting, but also quite complex. So
yeah, but it was our idea. I mean, we don't want to show the simplest examples, but the examples that will show you how to.
So there are no to do apps examples or
coffee machine.
coffee machine.
But also, if you don't want to buy training just to use poison queue, the middleware is also well documented. So it's not like we're not documenting things. So you buy the training. No. I mean, it's also not our tactic. So everything is well documented with the poison queue middleware as well. But yeah, in training, of course, you have a bit more context of how to use that. All right. Okay, somebody mentioned that. Yeah, I'm going to use Watermill within my framework. Yeah, that's an idea.
So it can be just like a plugin for messages, but doesn't need to be concerned about anything else.
Yep. Yeah, so we have also commented that Go with the domain is very useful, helpful book. We agree. It's really helpful.
Got to hear.
If you don't have it yet, you just need to sign to newsletter and it will be sent to your mailbox after subscribing there. All right, where can I buy the Gopher mascot? It's not that simple. I mean, money is not solution for that problem. So long story short, there are some random events that we are doing and you can get that, but not buy. You can win that. And at the end of this live, we'll do what's the name? It will be a way to win one of them. Actually, this one. So the small one is Miłosz one.
Yeah.
This is not for win, but yeah, you can win.
We can get more if there's a need. So maybe we need more contests. And we actually had some ideas about this, but there's limited number of things you can do in a year. So I guess join our live events. That's the current answer.
Off topic. Why Max? Do you want to answer?
I don't know. I cannot tell that I was a Linux user for a long time, but then I was at a point where I just wanted my computer to work. And I don't need to configure it and
recompile kernel each week.
Yeah. So it just works, and the new M1 processors are great.
Yeah.
Except for Docker support, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, I think I will agree. I mean, it's maybe pretty connected to lack of time. That okay, we have limited time and multiple things to do, and okay, even if MacBooks have its limitations, it works for multiple things. Just works, and battery life and performance. Beside Docker, is really good, and yeah, it's nice. That's it actually. I mean.
I think we are getting ready to start a technology channel on YouTube.
Yeah. But yeah, to also give context, so we were previously both on Linux, so it's not like we're Linux ignorants. We're on Linux for pretty long, but yeah, at the end it was like, I think we're getting older.
Yeah, it's just like you have to connect Bluetooth headset, and then you spend like half an hour on Linux fighting with it.
Or for example, on my PC, because still I have PC and I have Linux on that, but some stupid things like I need to change operating system on group when it's booting, but the problem is that I have Bluetooth keyboard. And as you can imagine, Grab doesn't support my Bluetooth keyboard, so I cannot choose operating system during boots. So, it's not like, okay, we don't like Linux, but in these terms, we're a bit lazy. All right, the next question. Thanks for setting the event. When can we expect the feature that allows us recent training? Thanks. So we have it really high on our backlog. So now, if you would like to, start training over again from the beginning, please drop us an email or ping us on Discord, and we'll reset it for you. But yeah, it shouldn't be hard to do that, but it's just again, part of prioritization. So we needed to organize a couple of things for the sale now, but just after that, we'll add the support for reset. So stay tuned.
Also, I wanted to extend it a bit to allow you to rerun an exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be probably part of this. Because right now, once you go to the next one, you can go back pretty much, and we would like to make it more flexible.
Right, so the next question. Any prerequisites required for training in terms of prior experience? So I'd say it's probably not a training for junior developers, because it's not that simple and it may be a bit hard to grasp anything, and we're skipping all the basics there. But I think that if you are a mid engineer and with some basic knowledge, you should do that. And actually, if you don't have no knowledge, it's not an issue, because we have also another training that is named Go in one evening. So it's actually pretty good, because we can learn Go pretty quickly. I think that we're linking to this training on our blog, and it's also linked in the Go event-driven website. And yeah, you can always update your Go knowledge, and after that go to the next training. So long story short, if you're not junior, some Go basics, it should be fine. And especially that the exercises, we're trying to keep them pretty granular. So it's not like you need to implement entire application and in one run and later you're checking solution. No, it's rather small steps. So it should be fine. And also for all exercises, you can see the solutions if you need to do that. So if you're less experienced there, you can always look on the solution a bit earlier and try to understand that. So it will be good. I'm not sure if you have something to add.
No, just basic Go knowledge. If you have implemented like an HTTP based application in Go, I think you're good to go. Even if you're a junior maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
Like we described most concepts in a way that should be easy to comprehend. Yeah, but it shows more advanced patterns. So you might have no use for them if you didn't work with bigger applications.
But I think it's maybe also good to elevate the career a bit. I mean, it's also some nice, argument when you're joining some company.
Oh yeah, sure.
All right, so the next one. Additional error info as part of metadata. Assign predefined keys for status of backend broker.
Is it about that letter?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the context. For if you can put a bit more context, it will be pretty useful. I might missed it. Are there any news about other trainings? Not yet. We need to rest a bit. So
Refer to the rest part. But yeah, we have for sure some ideas.
yeah, so we have some ideas. We don't know which we may explore yet, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that we'll release some more trainings. But it's hard to say about the timing because it's it's.
You can actually help us and mention what you would like to see. This is what we asked in the feedback form after the training. So I think the current ones are one idea is more TDD related, business applications oriented training, and the other is kind of modern microservices or whatever you call it. So one is more basic, the other is more deep into domain driven design.
Well, definitely not this year.
Yeah.
Definitely. Maybe somewhere next, some pre-sale or no. We'll need to think about that. After we rest, we'll think about that. But yeah, it's nice that you're asking. Okay, additional interface. I may miss also some context here.
So I think it's about introducing a new interface to Watermill. Oh, right. So this is like a PubSub factory, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's quite straightforward now to create publishers and subscribers.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if there would be a use for it.
Yeah, so now usually when you're configuring, for example, the command bus, you're just passing function that creates that for you. So and it's work in most cases.
Maybe for sharing some clients.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the issue of the CQRS facade where you have this big configuration and it does everything for you. So I think it's probably trying to be to separate the publishing concepts from the subscribing concepts, because then if you don't need to subscribe messages, it's very easy to create a publisher. But we could have both in theory. Maybe. Contributions are welcome. Please send your PRs.
Or so maybe in such cases actually, some proposals before PRs, because I think it may be also useful to, if it's something controversial, to have some kind design document proposal earlier, so you can also discuss that. So we will ensure that you are not implementing something that may not really fit Watermill. So
yeah, maybe we could discuss this on Discord, for example, with code examples and such.
Yep. Or GitHub. So GitHub is also
GitHub,
nice
yeah.
because it will not be forgotten. So. Okay, so somebody guessed. Yes, we are from Krakow. All right. org stack is a great Docker replacement for Max. Yeah, I actually was reading about that, I think, yesterday. I need to check, but yeah, I heard from multiple people that
Nice.
it makes the job. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yes, now Macs are the perfect.
We don't no longer need Linux.
Sorry, Linux. I will still need you on servers.
Will it be possible for refugees from Ukraine to continue the Go event-driven course from another country if course is purchased for the Ukrainian region? Of course, please just email us and yeah, no problem in this case. If you, in general, if you have some special situation when you need to move or something like that, so you know, we are also open for that, so no worries about that. So yeah, if you are in this scenario, please don't worry about that. Any views about the new language called Zik? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I think I've seen it. I think it looks kind of like Python with types and it's compiled. That's what I know. I honestly, I stopped learning new languages after Go. I mean, I don't know. I took a brief look at Rust and Elixir, but yeah, but Go is where I guess Go works the best for me. So I'm not actively looking for something new.
Yeah, I would say the same. I mean, I know that there are things happening there, but I think Go have all the functionalities that are important for me. So it's easy to learn Go because we were leading teams where most people were not writing anything in Go, and 1 week after they joined, where they were able to really be productive. It wasn't like they were able to deploy in production because this deploy in production was super fast. It was a matter of days, but really soon they were very productive. So that's good. And it's also in general that when you're writing Go, you're productive and you don't need to care about a lot of things, and it's just quick to write some things. And it's also simple, so you cannot overcomplicate things. So, and yeah, I think that this is this is the reason why I'm also not looking for new languages really. So
I mean, it's great to learn a new paradigm. Like if you learn some Haskell or Clojure, your brain goes to wow, so you can do those things. So this is nice. Yeah, but if I consider a new language that's very, very fresh and has no libraries or little of them, like I would just feel not productive, I guess.
yeah.
This is where Go was in a few years ago, and it's great. It's no longer in this phase. It's great. We have like mature libraries. You don't need to write things yourself. It's like the support for modules is better now.
Yeah. And I think it's also one important thing that Go is already adopted pretty widely, so it's not a problem to find a job in Go. That's really important, I think. And Go will certainly stay with us longer. I mean, I cannot imagine that, okay, now Go will die and nobody will use that because it was already a lot of code written during Go. So I think it's also pretty important.
There's generics now.
Yeah.
Come on, like
We just are missing exceptions.
yeah, and monods and pattern matching.
and I don't know what. But yeah, jokes aside, yeah, I think that's Go works for us, so we are not looking around. All right.
Yeah, I think that those are related to the previous question, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you have some examples, so you have our Discord link, so yeah, we can discuss it a bit later. Right, so some last questions. Timer of death. 1, 2, 3. All right. So if Q&A is finished, you know what will happen now. So it's quiz time. So you can win this super big gopher, this Uber gopher. So this is so please open the form, but there is no question yet there. So this is just blank form. Yours, please double check if it works.
Yeah.
And we'll say you the question soon. So the way to win this gopher is that you need to answer the question that Miłosz will ask soon. And if you will be the first person who will ask it properly, gopher is yours. So we need your email address in this form, so we'll be able to write to you and say that, yeah, you won, and you can, your address will be useful to send this gopher. All right, so let's give people maybe 10 more seconds to go to the form.
Yeah, it seems the form works. Nice.
Great. So Miłosz, are you ready for the question?
I hope you typed your emails in.
Mm-hmm.
On the last release we celebrated I think 2 years since the last release. And today we actually are also kind of celebrating because around this time, 3 years ago, Watermill v1.0 was released. And the question is, what exactly was the date?
3, 2, 1, go.
So the Watermill v1.0 from GitHub, what date it was released on?
GitHub is probably already dying from the traffic that is receiving. But okay, let's give people a couple of seconds to find that. I will double check to have the answer. Alright, Watermill releases. Oh, it was so long time ago.
I scrolled too much.
Oh. All right, so
yeah, I think we have a winner.
we have a winner. Hooray! Right, so if we have the winner, you can say us when was it?
Yeah, so it was September 25, 2019. So 2 days ago, it was 4 years ago, right?
Yeah, and actually in this release note, I wrote that it took us 500 days from initial commit. So it was
Really?
long time ago. Yeah.
Oh.
Nice. Fun fact, Watermill initial name was, I think it was GoDDD. Don't ask me why. But if you go into Git history, it's actually interesting exercise if you are interested to go into Git history and check how it looked at the beginning. Some things were actually pretty the same as now, but some changed a bit. Right. So I think that we are done for today. So yeah, reminder about Go Event Driven. So the sale is I think I forgot about one super important thing. So the sale is open until
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday. So it's time limited and yeah. So this is the link. And thanks for your time. I hope that you enjoyed the live. I hope that the changes in Watermill will be useful for you. And yeah, we'll see on the next release party, or maybe we'll find out some nice topic for doing another live.
Yeah, we have some ideas actually, but let's see.
Yeah, we're not promising anything.
We'll let you know over our newsletter.
Cool. So thank you for your time again.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye bye.